Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome into the Crowded Booth Live. No Bryce tonight, so I'm hosting. He kind of threw this into my lap, so we're going to see how it goes. I'm joined by Ralph. Ralph, everybody knows Ralph. Ralph's always on here. We're also joined by Palmer Toms. Palmer, welcome.
We're also parent twin, apparently.
Yeah, happy to be on with y'all tonight.
Yeah, well,
hope I can fill the shoes of Bryce. Yeah, as that third person.
Well, hopefully I can. Hopefully I can fill his shoes with hosting. So we're gonna see how this goes. So we're gonna cover quite a few topics tonight. Since we got Palmer here, we're gonna talk about some Georgia. As everybody knows, Palmer covers Georgia for Dogs 24/7. Gonna talk about some baseball, about how the Dogs are doing on the diamond, and gonna talk about the Dogs on the court a little bit, or maybe lack thereof. But we're going to get into a lot. So I want to start off with baseball. Palmer, tell us about Georgia's baseball season, how they're looking, SEC tournament coming up. Are the Dogs going to make it? And then the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, we're headed into the last weekend of the regular season for SEC baseball. Georgia's 12-15 in the conference. With 3 games left against Ole Miss. They'll play Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at Foley Field in Athens. Should be a really good game, really good, series of games. Ole Miss is a top 15 team in the country in both of the major polls. Georgia has been in and out of the top 25, out of it more so than in it. But they did put together a nice little stretch early, probably midway through the season with 3 straight series victories, picked up wins over Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Missouri. And that the Vanderbilt series was really important for Georgia, and I know I came on and talked about it after that series. But they went on the road, beat the number 1 team in the country, had to face that same kind of challenge last weekend, going on the road 2 weekends ago, going on the road to play Arkansas, and dropped the rubber game there. They were up 3-0 against the Razorbacks, dropped it 3-5. Arkansas brought in reliever Kevin Kopps, who is going to be an All-American, potential SEC Pitcher of the Year. He's a stud. Earned the save in Friday night's game against the Bulldogs and got the win on Sunday. This weekend it was similar circumstances. They went on the road, played top 10 Florida team, took 1 of 3 against them. So Georgia's kind of got their backs against the wall. You mentioned their NCAA tournament hopes. They will make the SEC tournament. That is locked in. Georgia will be 12 teams make the SEC tournament. Georgia will be one of those 12. And the way that it works is the top 4 teams get a bye into the double elimination rounds, and then the 5 through 12 have to play a single elimination sort of play-in game. You win that, you're in the double. You move on to double elimination, which is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So Tuesday, whenever that game is, time and opponent is not determined yet, but whenever that game is on Tuesday, it's a big one for Georgia, because if you win that, you get the opportunity to go play some really high caliber teams in that double elimination group of pool. And then from there, NCAA tournament is a chance that Georgia should have. I mentioned that they're 12-15. ESPN put up some numbers recently about, the percentages of, looking at the past history, the percentages of teams that have made SEC teams that have made the NCAA tournament when they reach a certain benchmark of wins. 13 is kind of that number that Georgia really needs to get to. Like I said, they're sitting at 12-15 now. 12 wins makes the tournament 15% of the time. I don't think if Georgia goes out and gets swept this weekend against Ole Miss, they're really going to need to win some games in Hoover against the SEC tournament field. But if they can get to 13, it's 36%, and if they get to 14, you're above that 50% mark at 61%. So if they can win this series against Ole Miss, in my opinion, they are in for sure. If they can get one, they've got a really good chance to get in. And Georgia's playing a big game tonight. They're on the road at Georgia Tech, leading 2-1 in the bottom of the third. Tech probably a tournament team and a chance to boost that RPI and boost the pick up a quadrant 1 win tonight in Atlanta.
Yeah, so you mentioned 12-15. That's conference record. They're 29-20 overall. Just kind of a quick glance at their schedule. For college baseball non-conference games, you're not going to see a ton of big matchups, but Georgia played a couple. They played Clemson and beat them twice, once on the road. This is their second go-around with Georgia Tech. Lost them the first time at home, but it'd be even bigger to get that win, like you said, on the road. We're going to stay in the SEC with baseball. We're going to talk about Auburn. You mentioned the top 12 teams make the SEC tournament. Now, Auburn has not been very good this year. They did get one from Georgia in the 3-game set in Athens, so that was big for Auburn. But Auburn,
they got 2 from them.
They got 2. They did get 2. Auburn did get 2.
They got 2 from them. Yeah, that was a tough blow for Georgia. I think, like I said, that the Bulldogs had that 3-game series winning streak and had a really good chance to beat, like you said, an Auburn team that had been struggling, and they win that first game 4-0. Then they go lose the second game 10-6 and 14 and lose the rubber game on Saturday 9-7.
Yeah, that weekend kind of got Auburn rolling, kind of got them hot. Auburn's been much better from that weekend. Auburn 8-19 in the SEC, tied with Texas A&M, but took 2 out of 3 from them last weekend to get that tiebreaker against them. Auburn with North Alabama tonight out of conference, and then playing Missouri, who is 7-20, who's pretty much they're eliminated. They're not going to make the SEC tournament regardless. So if Auburn wins 2 out of 3, they will be that 12th team. You mentioned those 5 through 12 seed playing games. Has there ever been a team that didn't get a bye win the SEC tournament? I don't know of any.
I would guess so. Just
surely one has.
Just thinking back on recent history. I mean, Ole Miss made a run a couple years ago. I'm not sure if they had a bye. I know Texas A&M. I'll do some research on that one, but I'm surely there has been.
Yeah, I just look at it and I don't know if any of the 5 through 12 seeds this season would have the pitching to make that long run, to get to the playing games, get through double elimination, to even make it to the end. But there are some talented teams like, Florida. I'm trying to do it in my head.
Looking off the top of my head, I think Florida will. I would guess your top seeds would be. No, I don't think Florida would get it. Now that I think about it, because you're going to have Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and your 4th spot would probably be either Florida or Mississippi State. I know the Bulldogs dropped their last series, and Florida beat Georgia, so that's got to be a big up for them. But Florida's hosting, or playing this weekend against our number 1 Arkansas, so that's a challenge for the Gators this weekend.
All right, and Mississippi State and Florida with identical conference records at 17-10. So big weekends for both of them. I just want one more note on the SEC. You brought up Vanderbilt earlier. They've been struggling. They got swept by Ole Miss over the weekend. Ralph, I know you usually
have your eye. They got one from them. They put it on them on Saturday.
Okay. Ralph, you got anything on that series? I know you kind of follow them more than we do, more than I do, obviously, because I can't get anything right.
I think Ole Miss is one of the best teams in baseball. If you haven't watched Ole Miss play baseball, you're really missing out. I mean, they're really exciting to watch. I know Vanderbilt's always been that team that's in the past been dominant. Tim Corbin leads that great team every single year. But yeah, Ole Miss, I think they're a team to watch out for in the SEC tournament. They'll surprise you. They got good pitching. They got really great young batters too. I mean, they had that freshman, I think, hit 3 home runs Saturday, I believe. Or is it might have been I think Saturday. I think he hit 3 home runs. I can't remember his name. I watched it on ESPN Plus for about 20 minutes, and the first at bat I saw him hit was a home run. So I was like, all right, that's one. And then someone I got notifications they hit 2 more, and I was like, well, that's just crazy. So I think the SEC tournament is going to be a good one this year. I don't think we have a one team that's just so dominant over everybody. I mean, Arkansas, obviously, we saw them in Tennessee this past weekend. They struggled a little bit. I mean, Tennessee's a great team, but you're expecting a lot out of Arkansas being the number 1 team in the country, and they got taken to them this weekend. So
yeah, it was a big series win for Tennessee. Palmer, who do you think will win the SEC tournament? Go ahead. We'll get some predictions here.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Vanderbilt. The pitching that they've got, they are loaded, especially the 1-2 punch in Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter. It's something that not many teams can match up against. Mississippi State has some pitching, but I think to me, there's a very clear-cut 1 and 2 in the SEC, and it's 1 and 2 in the country, and with that being Arkansas and Vanderbilt. Just thinking about it, Arkansas is a team that leads the country, or at least a couple weekends ago, led the country in home runs. They really rely on that long ball. I'm not sure the way that Hoover sets up, but I think that's a formula for. It's kind of like flirting with disaster with the 3-pointer in the NCAA tournament. For basketball, you gotta, if you're relying on the long ball to win baseball games, it's not a recipe for making a long run unless you get hot. And of course, teams have done that before, and there's no doubt that Arkansas is one of the best teams in the country. They haven't dropped a series all season, and there's no reason to believe that they are going to this. I mean, I guess they could against Florida, but there's no reason to believe that they're not going to show up and play in Hoover. But if I had to make a guess, I'm going to go with Vanderbilt. The 1-2 punch of Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter. You win those first 2 games, and you're in. You're on to the weekend. And they've got some young arms too that they can throw at you. Tim Corbin has experience winning it. This team has experience winning it. With some of these guys being freshmen, sophomores on the national championship and SEC tournament winning team back in 2019. I like the Commodores.
Ralph, are you gonna roll with Ole Miss, or are you gonna pick someone else?
I think I'm gonna go Arkansas, and I completely agree with what Palmer says. Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, they're great. They're future MLB pitchers. They're gonna do great things in the future. But I gotta get to the team that is hot right now. I think Arkansas has been hot all year. Obviously, they lost one to Tennessee over the weekend. Lost one to Georgia a few weekends ago. They're still hot though. You lose 2 games in 2 weeks, that's fine. I think they are, like I said, they're a long ball team. I think Hoover Met, does set up for a good long ball. And I think Arkansas has a good chance. I think they're coming in right now. I think they're one of the best teams. They're definitely the best team in baseball, I think, in college. And I think, like you said, Palmer, with how Tim Corbin has them set up, they have a good chance with Vanderbilt. But Arkansas, I think, will I think they'll take it. I think they'll win it all. I really do.
So, Will, I'm going to go back to what you were asking earlier. If any team has come out of the double elimination, they changed it from back in 2012. They went to giving a couple of teams buys. Back then, it was 10 teams, so only 2 teams got a bye. But in 2012, the 7th seeded Mississippi State Bulldogs made a run and made it out of the first round into the second round, and ultimately won the thing over Vanderbilt. And I believe, that sparked a run. They did not make it out of the regional. I couldn't remember if that was one of the years that Mississippi State made it to Omaha, but there's your answer. 2012 Mississippi State Bulldogs.
All right, so it's been done. So you're saying Auburn has a chance? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, you show up in Hoover, you got a chance. You got a chance
to
win it. Crazier things have happened.
That's right. I know I'm not picking Auburn to win the SEC tournament. Okay, Auburn's pitching staff has been a wreck all year. So there's no way I'm putting my money on them. I'm with Palmer. I'm going to say Vanderbilt. You know, he talked about the 1-2 punch, Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter, but they've got depth. They got arms behind them. They've got one of the best bullpens in the SEC, and of course they hit too. You can't go 17-9 in the SEC and not be able to hit. So I'm going Vandy. We got 2 for Vandy and 1 for Arkansas with Ralph's pick. So we'll find out in a couple weeks how right we were. Let's go into some college basketball, and specifically Georgia. I'm sure Palmer is tired and just worn out from his Georgia basketball coverage because this off season of Georgia basketball has been wild. Georgia, you're going to have to correct me on the number. Is it 9? 9
it's
players?
9. It's 9, and I had to write them out just to make sure I got them all. Yeah, it is 9 players, and you call it an off season. It hasn't been much of one
right.
covering this Georgia basketball team.
So the biggest blows have come here of late. The big one, it was yesterday, right? Severe Wheeler announcing he is transferring to Kentucky. I think that's a big get for the Wildcats. Obviously, a ginormous loss for the Bulldogs. And KD Johnson last week, I don't know the date, I think it was last week, entering the transfer portal. Looks like his decision will be coming soon. What's happened? What has led to this? What has led to 9 players entering the transfer portal?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Xavier Wheeler. You know, they lose 3 starters 4 actually. It's Xavier Wheeler to Kentucky, Tamani Kamara to Dayton, Ty Fagan to Ole Miss, and Justin Kier, who was a graduate transfer, is going to use that super senior COVID year of eligibility, but will use it elsewhere. He has entered the transfer portal, and he'll be announcing his destination next week. KD Johnson, someone that was, regardless of who came back, Johnson was going to be a big player for Georgia this next year. Looks like he may be headed down to the Plains and playing for Auburn, but that has yet to be announced. But that's kind of what most people are thinking. Lose Christian Brown, Jaquan Walton, Michael Starks, another grad transfer, and Andrew Garcia. It has been a whirlwind coming out of Stegman Coliseum. Going back to Xavier Wheeler, it's that's definitely the toughest blow. Wheeler was the leader of this team. I put it out on Twitter yesterday. Georgia, January 20th, Georgia goes and beats Kentucky for the first time since 2013. Believe it was like 17 straight games or something that the Wildcats had won over the Bulldogs. And, couple months later, almost 5 months later to the date, Xavier Wheeler, the leading scorer and leading SEC assist leader of that team, announces that he's transferring to Kentucky. That's just kind of what you've come to expect from Georgia basketball, that, this offseason, it has been blow after blow after blow for Georgia fans. And Wheeler going to arch rival Kentucky, and KD Johnson potentially to Auburn, another big rival. Both those are going to hurt, especially, having to play those guys, and Ty Fagan, for a matter of fact, that he's going to Ole Miss, having to play those guys next season at least once. I think Georgia and Auburn play twice every year, but I could be wrong there. Having to play those guys, probably at least 3, maybe 4, 5, 6 games against, former players is really going to be a tough blow for Georgia fans. It's certainly not great for Tom Crean and his, tenure here in Athens and getting that to continue. I think Georgia fans, he probably wanted him on the hot seat this year. They didn't win as many games as people would have liked, but in my opinion, I think I agree with Josh Brooks and all the decision makers in the Georgia athletic department to keep Tom Crean around for another year. First and foremost, I think, he has made the improvements. You look at it, each year he's, increased Georgia's win total. Georgia finished above 500 this past season, obviously with a COVID shortened, non-conference schedule and one that wasn't all too challenging for Georgia. The Bulldogs went undefeated there. But even just looking at the SEC, that I feel like that's a pretty consistent slate. 18-game schedule. Georgia increased their win total there. He had the Bulldogs playing some really good basketball in February. In February, headed into March, they had a chance to make some noise, maybe work their way onto the tournament bubble if they had won a couple more games. But certainly, with a normal NIT, you would have expected to see them in there. And I think the second reason that I agree with Brooks and company in making the decision to keep Crean around is his buyout. I know we've talked about it before, but it's over $7 million right now. I'm not sure that's an investment that Georgia Athletics wants to make in Georgia basketball, and it might have to be one that they need to make if Georgia basketball is ever going to get to the level that some of the SEC counterparts have gotten to, because you look at the league and every team with the exception of Georgia has made the NCAA tournament since 2017, and it's showing. Georgia has not invested in its basketball program. Some people might have said that Tom Crean going out and getting a solidified coach, a proven coach like Tom Crean, was making an investment, but it doesn't look like it's paying off all that much 3 years later. And he'll have a fourth season, but he is scrambling. With those 9 losses, he has had to fill the roster, with by hitting the transfer portal, and he's picked up 9 guys. Actually, he's picked up 8. Georgia has 1 scholarship spot open right now, with the departure and the announcement from KD Johnson that he was leaving. But they've gone out and gotten several guys. I think Georgia fans are excited to see some of these guys. Some people think it's improvement of the roster, an upgrade from last year. But I don't know that I would necessarily say that. I think when it comes to winning basketball games in a really tough conference like the SEC, I think continuity is really important. You've seen how Tom Crean has done, kind of inheriting a new team in the past. His first year, it's a tough system to pick up, and you've got to have the guys that fit that system. And that first year, there's no doubt that Mark Fox's system did not fit. Mark Fox's players did not fit Tom Crean's system. Very polar opposite systems there. And Crean brings in his guys and then gets to develop them a little bit more in years 2 and years 3. But now he's kind of starting fresh. You look back at that 2019 roster, and there is no one that is still there. That 2018-19 season, 19-20 season, there is no one left from that group. And that 2019 recruiting class, there's no one left from that. And the guy who has been around the longest was Ty Fagan, and he only stuck around for 3 years. So Georgia will have Jonathan Ned, Tyron McMillan, Josh Taylor. Those are the 3 scholarship players that are returning, along with walk-on contributor Jackson Eder. And then it's been hitting the transfer portal to fill out the rest of the roster. Like I mentioned, they've got 1 spot open still to join a group that is ranked 59th in the country, 12th in the SEC. You've got Christian Wright, wow. Cameron McDowell, Tyrone Baker, Dalen Rignall, Cario Quindo. Those are the 5 guys that are coming in either from high school or from JUCO. And then the 4 D1 transfers in Braylon Bridges, Jalen Ingram, Jabri Abdur-Rahim, and Noah Bauman. So, excuse me, it was 9. I was right the first time. But, they've got some scholarship spots open they've got 1 spot open because of the grad transfers. Those guys, they have the option to return, but they don't. Even if they do, they don't count against the scholarship total. So Georgia's got 1 spot left, and they're in the running for some big name players. There's a point guard out of Gonzaga who I believe was a backup for the Bulldogs out west in Spokane. There's a UMass big man that Georgia's in the running for. To me, I think point guard is the biggest area of concern. Losing Wheeler, losing Johnson, losing Michael Starks, even that is a spot where they need someone that is a solidified ball handler. Christian Wright is listed as a point guard, and I think he'll be playing the point, handling the ball. Cario Quindo, I spoke with him, and he told me that Crean has told him that he wants him to work at the point, but more of a shooting guard naturally. So I think the biggest concern would be going out and getting someone that has played college point guard before. If you end up having another spot that's open, you go and attack the big men, because that's something that Georgia hasn't had the last couple of seasons and really still doesn't have. I mean, Braylon Bridges is on the roster. He's 6'10", 235. But outside of that, Georgia, he would be a true center in my opinion. But outside of that, Georgia's got a bunch of power forwards that they're going to have to play at center and, be a little bit undersized at that position. That may be something that Tom Crean is open to doing and isn't opposed to doing, because he likes that faster system. But to me, I think the physicality, you got to be able to bang in the low post to win in the SEC, and you're not going to be able to do that with just one center. So point guard would be my first priority if I was Tom Crean, and then going to get a big man if another spot opens up. But certainly will be interesting to see the route that Georgia goes.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Do you go for a guard or a big? Because most Georgia fans I know, their big concern was the size. I mean, they couldn't. I don't know. I don't have the stats to back it up, but Georgia was probably the worst offensive rebounding team in the SEC. If not, they were very close to the bottom. And you brought up the recruiting rankings. I would say that big number there is 12th in the SEC. That just shows how much the SEC has elevated over the past few years, because probably 59th in the country 5 years ago would have put you in the top at least 6 in the SEC. Mm-hmm. So things have changed a lot, and Tom Crean's going to have to make some changes as well if Georgia's going to compete like the fans want them to, because we see it down in Columbus, close to Auburn. Georgia fans down there hate looking over and seeing Auburn being successful. We're going to get into some Major League Baseball. We're going to have a commercial break first. Bryce is kind of operating the show behind the scenes, off the show, so I'm not really sure when that's coming. We're going to have to communicate with him. But Palmer, we're going to talk about some MLB if you want to stick around and talk about some of that.
Let's go.
All right. Ralph, are you trying to tell Bryce to run the –
I said hit him with the ad, so hopefully if it just shuts off, the ad's running. So hopefully he pays attention.
Yeah, so Bryce is –
we can talk for a second,
Yeah.
Hope everyone's doing well right now.
Yeah, we got kind of light on comments tonight with no Bryce. That's not really a surprise. Most people see me attempting to host and are not sticking around to watch. I don't blame them.
We're gonna do our best all we can. I promise you. We're running this. Yeah. This is very strange how we're running this tonight.
It is not ideal. I would not have suggested this. That's okay. We're here. We're figuring it out. Flying by the seat of our pants, as they say.
I'm just trying to take him as much as I can until he does it. He might. If you didn't know, Bryce is right now calling a game for the Mercer Bears. They're playing Georgia Southern. If you're bored, you're tired of watching us, go to ESPN Plus and pull it up. You can be more excited watching them than us, apparently. Well, I mean, I have one question for you, Will, real quick before he hits the pad.
Let's do it.
Trey Alexander, he's leaving Auburn after decommitting from Auburn.
Very interesting. Yeah, you say decommit, but he signed with Auburn.
Yeah.
Cook's Place began serving our signature hot dogs in 1985 from a cart on Broadway. We still serve the best hot dogs and scrambled dogs in town at the corner of Moon and Miller Road and at the landings. Our friendly staff won't let you leave hungry. Come in and eat to the beat with our 50s jukebox. Cook's Place. Fast service, great people, awesome food. What are you waiting for?
There's the ad. We got it in. But yeah, Trey Alexander signed with Auburn. So Auburn technically doesn't have to release him from his scholarship, but they're going to. And that's a very strange situation. So he's a shooting guard from Oklahoma, 4-star. that a lot of Auburn people, the coaching staff.
Johnson, you'd be okay.
He'll be okay. He'll play some point guard for Auburn. But Trey Alexander was a shooting guard. Auburn had already announced that Justin Powell, I think it was announced Justin Powell was leaving and Jamal Johnson was leaving. So Auburn knew they were going to need some guards, point guard and shooting guard. And he kind of came out and said that Auburn didn't keep their word when he would have been the only guard on the roster. So
he was expected to play every minute, every game.
Did he expect he'd be the only guard on the roster? I mean, that very strange situation. But let's talk about some baseball. Let's start off with the Braves. So the Braves, as I am slow here pulling up standings, they're not in first place in the National League East. They are third, sitting 19-22, 3 games under 500. Dropped game 1 to the Mets last night, which has been a huge series for the Braves to take 2 out of 3. But they're going to have their work cut out for them Tuesday and Wednesday. But we talked about the Braves a lot. Everybody's kind of heard mine and Ralph. So, Palmer, don't know how much Braves you've watched, how much you've kept up with. Is it already time to start panicking on May 18th?
I don't know that it's time to start panicking, but it's definitely more concerning than it was. I say a month ago, but a month ago we were 2 weeks into the season. And so, I don't think it's time to start panicking. I think there's, plenty of baseball left to be played. What are they? 19-22. So that's, quick math would be 41 games into the season. Look at that. Journalism major over here doing
that's
math.
a UGA student right there.
Exactly.
41 games into the season, you got over 100 left to play. A lot of baseball, and they're 3 games back in the East. It's not time to start panicking. If the Braves are 5 games back at the All-Star break, then it's a little bit more time for concern. But even then, still a lot of baseball left to be played. I don't think it's time to start panicking. I think this team is talented and will continue to come around. I feel like they have come around already some, and they're going to continue to come around.
Yeah, the bats, I think the bats have gotten a lot better. They're starting to come around. The big concern for me is pitching, and it's the starting 5 rotation and the bullpen, both. Max Fried has not been the Max Fried he has been the past couple of seasons. Charlie Morton's been okay. I think he's been about as expected. Drew Smiley's starting to come around, so that's very promising in the middle of that rotation. And the new star, Huascar Ynoa, has been great, but now he's out a few months because he broke his hand. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's young, 22 years old.
I want to say something quick. Fried's been pitching actually pretty well the past 2 outings. Now, last night it was cut short because I believe they didn't announce, but I think he had a blister on his hand, his pitching hand. And I think that's the reason why he got pulled out of the game so early. He was pitching well. He went 6 innings, only 5 hits and 8 Ks and got 1 run. I thought it was okay. But we saw, obviously, he got taken out, and then Jacob Webb gets thrown in there, and the whole thing goes into uproar because of the sheer fact he had the bases loaded. He has a 3-2 count on Pilar, and he hits him in the nose. I mean, terrible sight to watch, obviously. But I wouldn't say, Jacob Webb the whole time of that bat was pitching extremely well. I thought he was he had great control, obviously, until that last pitch. I think he just let it out a little too more aggressive than he wanted to. Lost control of it. The bullpen is probably my biggest concern. I think Drew Smiley coming around is huge for the rotation. They do lose Mike Soroka for the whole year. It was announced that he will not be able to return this year. He had surgery on his, I think, shoulder, if I was correct about that.
No, it was his Achilles. It was Achilles. Again? Yeah, it was his Achilles again. It was kind of a scary headline because they called it an experimental surgery.
Yeah.
But I think they were just going in and cleaning some stuff up because he had some irritation.
Yeah, I think the whole bullpen is the biggest concern right now. Obviously, hitting's going to come around. It's just, some guys are in slumps. We have, a 45-year-old catcher right now playing for him, and Jeff Mathis. And you're not going to get a lot of pop out of Jeff Mathis.
Look, you knock Jeff Mathis, but I think Jeff Mathis has been the secret key to unlock Drew Smiley.
Oh,
he's caught him the last 2 or 3 starts, and he's been really good.
I think Drew Smiley's done really well lately. I think he's finally found his motion going on in right now. Acuna's starting to slump a little bit, but I don't know how much we know about Acuna right now. I think he's more injured than we expected. That ankle injury was a lot more gruesome than I expected it to be. And then for him to come back a week, 5 days later and play, I don't know if that's the great time of return for him, but I'm not Snicker. I'm not the trainers in Atlanta, so they know more than I do.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Acuna knows his value in the lineup, I think, and I think that's why he wants to be out there every single day. I'm trying to pull up hitting stats, being slow. I mean, you talk about the bullpen being an issue. I've been worried about the offense because the Braves past couple of seasons have really hit the ball well. Mm-hmm. Namely, Freddie Freeman, your reigning National League MVP. He's only batting .216 right now. But I think that average has come up, about 50 points in the last 2.5 weeks?
Yeah, Sunday he hit a grand slam, and I think Saturday he hit a home run. So Freddie's he's starting to turn around a little bit. I think he's kind of feeling his swing again. And I still think the one guy we talked about a few weeks ago, Austin Riley, he is the leading hitter right now on the team, who's played more majority of games. Obviously, Guillermo Heredia has been out, but Austin Riley has the best average on the team. I know that's shocking to some people, and I think some people wouldn't believe me if I told them that at the beginning of the year. Austin Riley's coming around, and I know the people who hated Austin Riley at first are just eating their words right now.
Yeah, been a lot of talk. I'm one of them. I hate it. He's in AAA, but Austin Riley's batting .292.
No, he's in Atlanta right now. He's on the team.
I thought they sent him back down.
No, he got brought him back up because of because Inciarte is on paternity leave.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So Ralph's our new Braves insider, I guess.
So let me ask y'all this. In terms of you look at the Braves schedule, they're home tonight against the Mets, home tomorrow against the Mets, and then they got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday home against the Pirates. What do you think? What would you consider a good record coming out of this? Over those next 6 games, including tonight, which, by the way, they're tied 0-0, top of the second.
I would say 4-2. I say you split these last 2 of the Mets and take 3 or 4 from the Pirates. I don't think that's asking a lot because the Pirates are probably the worst team in baseball. The Mets, their bullpen, you never know what you're going to get with them. So the Braves, I don't think will ever be out of a game either tonight or tomorrow night. So I'd go with 4-2. I don't know what Ralph's thinking.
I'm going to go 5-1. I think if you lose one, I think it's tonight. You got Tucker Davidson on the mound. He's young. He's got some control issues. He's starting. This is his first start technically in Major League. He's got a good arm. He got some great off-speed pitches. And like you said, Pittsburgh is one of the lower tier teams right now. And in the past few years, Atlanta's played very well against Pittsburgh. Gratefully, I'll be there Friday night, so hopefully I don't eat my words and watch them lose Friday night. But I say 5-1. I think you lose one more against the Mets, and then you go and you sweep Pittsburgh.
5-1 would get the Braves above 500.
That'd be huge. I think that'd be great.
I think that's much needed. It'd be a huge morale boost for the team because it just looks like there's a lot of the players on the team are just kind of disinterested, which I don't think is a good sign in early May. Especially when you're 3 games under 500 and the Mets and Phillies are just as talented, if not more talented, than your team is.
Well, that just shows you how baseball is right now. If the Braves are 3 games under 500 and they're playing not so well right now, it shows you how great they can be. So
the potential's definitely there. The last note I want to touch on with the Braves, and we'll kind of look at the MLB as a whole. I want to kind of dig into the bullpen. Namely, Ralph knows he's my favorite pitcher, and I think he should be the closer, Luke Jackson. Palmer, I don't know if you have an opinion about Luke Jackson, but Luke Jackson is my favorite reliever. Started in 2019 when he kind of took the closer role by the horns and ran with it until the All-Star break when nobody on the roster wanted the ball in the 9th inning.
I don't think
a lot has been said.
They had no one who could throw the ball in the 9th inning.
Yeah, I mean, he was the only guy that could put it over the plate in the 9th. Yeah. A lot's been talked about him in recent weeks. Just that he's not very good, which I don't understand. He's got a 1.76 ERA. Last time I checked, that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Very good, actually.
His whip is 1.24. So everybody talking about how he lets people on base. He doesn't really do that either.
If he walks a guy and gives up one hit, it's okay. As long as there's no runs scored, I can care less what his whip and ERA are.
That's how I feel. And that's mostly my opinion about advanced statistics. Palmer, do you have an opinion about advanced statistics?
I don't have much of an opinion. I think, with any sport, I think, stats only tell part of the story. I think, ultimately all these games are played out on the field and stats can only tell part of the story.
Yeah.
I'm with you. A lot of my friends want to clown me because I pay attention to batting average and on base percentage. Like, oh, they're so old, they don't tell you anything. I'm like, they tell you everything. Like, my favorite line that I've come up with is, I don't need to know that Ender Inciarte has the lowest exit velocity on the team when he can't hit the ball past the pitcher. I already know that. It doesn't matter to me. BABIP, which is batting average on balls in play, tells half the story. I mean, if a guy strikes out a lot, but his BABIP is 500, that's not valuable to me because he's not putting the bat on the ball enough. We had a big discussion in our group chat a couple days ago about advanced stats. Ralph, you got anything on advanced stats?
I've always just, ERA, batting average, OBS, OBP, sorry. Those are the only ones I really care about. If you can get on base, I'm happy. If you get the ball out of the infield, I'm okay. If you can strike a few guys out and give up 1 or 2 runs, I'm okay. It's advanced stats. It's a lot of guys who sit there in a room who have never played baseball before probably, and they just sit there and make up random numbers, and we're gonna call it this. We're gonna add walks and strikeouts and intentional walks into one stat and add it in there. It's just I don't understand. I don't understand why we have to have so many advanced stats these days.
Yeah, everybody want to get rid of batting average. They want to get rid of ERA, but those stats have been around forever. They've stood the test of time. Yeah. They still have their value. They're very necessary. So the big story today, I think, about kind of looking at the whole major leagues, comes from the Chicago White Sox. Palmer, I don't know if you saw this last night. Yermin Mercedes, who is quickly turning into a star, rookie catcher for the White Sox. Catcher, DH. He doesn't really have a position, but he can mash. Ralph, you might can fact check me. I don't know how far he hit this home run, but the White Sox last night, they were just putting it on the Minnesota Twins. I think they were up by 10 or 12 runs. And the Twins brought in a position player to pitch. He floats one up there at 47 miles an hour. And Yermin Mercedes, on a 3-0 count, Yermin Mercedes turns it around to dead center field and hit it about 450 feet. Now, you got a big lead. It's a 3-0 count. Most guys are just taking, whatever. 429. Yeah. Either way. Very long way. A lot further than I could hit a baseball with a wooden bat especially. So he turns it around. It's a big moonshot home run. And, I think the initial reaction last night was like, oh, my gosh, that's awesome. He just destroyed that ball. But his manager, Tony La Russa, who is the oldest manager in baseball, he's already in the Hall of Fame for his managerial career, came out of retirement to come to the White Sox. He didn't like it. I don't have the quote in front of me, but he said that there would be punishment or something.
I've got the quote.
He
said – La Russa said it was a big mistake. The fact that he's a rookie and excited helps explain why he was just clueless, but now he's got a clue. And then he said, I took several steps from the dugout onto the field yelling, take, take, take. The way he was set up, it looked to me like he was going to swing. I was upset because that's not a time to swing 3-0. I knew the Twins knew I was upset. He missed a 3-0 take sign. With that kind of lead, that's just sportsmanship and respect for your opponent. I'm always doing Yermin. For that reason, I'm here right now. For that reason, you guys are talking about me right now. This is Yermin Mercedes. If I'm not Yermin, if I'm not Yermin, if I'm not doing that, nobody wants to talk to me. Nobody wants to know what I'm doing. So those are the two sides of it.
I think Tim Anderson backed him up too. He backed up Yerman. It's like this is my teammate. You know, I think Tony Lewis did the whole thing wrong. It's a home run. He's one of your best young players. Obviously, you're without two of your best young players right now. You need someone to step up, and you got to give the fans a show. I mean, obviously they're away, and and you get a guy who's a 430-foot bomb off a pitcher that's a first baseman and catcher occasionally,
position player.
It's you don't want to see him strike out. Obviously, we watched what happened when Anthony Rizzo struck out Freddie Freeman. No one wanted to see that happen, but it happened. But I think Yerman. I don't see what's big deal. It's a home run. It's fun. It's fun to watch. It's baseball. It's going to happen. We're not in the 2000s, not in the 1990s when Tony La Russa was when he was relevant. I said
wow.
Yeah, he's irrelevant now. Obviously, he's coaching and he's 900 years old. He's coached more games than I think days I've been alive. So, he's just an old, grumpy old man, Will. It's like what we always call you.
Yeah. Well, Tony La Russa, this is actually his second stint as the White Sox manager. His first one started, I'm going to get the year wrong, but I think it was 1974. So that's how long he's been in baseball, how long he's been managing. And we've seen how much the game has changed in the last 10 years, let alone 50. And I think this is the first time I've ever heard a manager call his own player clueless. I mean, that floors me that he said that he was clueless. I mean, just bad luck. I said on Twitter, I said this hire continues to look worse every single day. And La Russa's reaction is far worse than Mercedes hitting a home run. And the fact that he turned around a 47-mile-an-hour pitch, that is ridiculously slow. And he hit it 430 feet. Now, most people don't realize a slower pitch is harder to hit.
Part to me.
Yeah, it's harder to hit a slower pitch that far, let alone hard, than it is a fast one. Because you're going to have to generate all that power yourself. So Tony La Russa kind of – go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Will, I think the quote you were looking for earlier was, there will be a consequence he has to endure here within our family. It's a learning experience.
And you missed the second part, which was even wilder, because I think La Russa was asked what the punishment would be, and La Russa said it wouldn't be playing time. So he's not even going to miss any playing time for this, even though he made his manager mad. And then La Russa says something about, he said something along the lines of, I could spank him, but he's a little big. He's too big for that. Yeah, let me find.
I'll tell you right now. In Major League Baseball, you don't have like power as a manager to tell your players to run poles after a game or do extra push-ups or it's not high school anymore. It's these are grown men. You're gonna treat him like a grown man. Obviously, Yerman decided to do what he wanted to do last night, hit a home run. Okay, it's baseball, it's fun. He's had a good time. Williams Asadillo, who's pitching, obviously didn't care. He lobbed one up there and expecting it to be either hit or taken, and it got destroyed. So
yeah,
I don't think
so. I'm reading this tweet from Jesse Rogers, who works for ESPN Chicago, covers White Sox. Said that was definitely a wild Zoom with Tony La Russa. He wouldn't reveal the punishment, and then put in parentheses, it's not playing time. Then joked, quote, I could try and spank him, but he's too big and strong. So wild happenings on the south side of Chicago.
Now, I will say they do have the best record in the league. So
they do. In spite of Tony La Russa, they are doing very well. As Braves fans would say, in spite of Brian Snitker, the Braves are successful. In spite of Tony La Russa, the White Sox are very successful. Anything else? Any other baseball news? Ralph, you got anything?
Mike Trout's out for 6 to 8 weeks.
That's right. Right before we went live on the show, Mike Trout came out. He's got a calf strain. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. Just also makes the spotlight even bigger on Shohei Ohtani.
I was about to say, speaking of the Angels, my dark